Welcome to the Serious TV Drama Podcast. I'm Scott, and joining me again tonight, I don't know, the somewhat southern speaker to my numbnut sin eater, it's Brian. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Scott. I wondered what you were going to pull out of your ass this week. That was pretty good.
Yeah, it certainly smelled like something I might have pulled out of my ass. That's for sure. I just, like about 15 minutes before we got on the call, I was like going, all right, I haven't really thought about it. Then I remembered Sin Eater. It's like, okay, I got to work Sin Eater. And I was trying to come up with something that would rhyme. And then after a while, I was like, everything I'm coming up with is lame. And I said, fuck it. Just do. I was like, ooh, Southern speaker, Sin Eater, somewhat, numbnut. That works fine. Okay. Maybe I let people behind the curtain way too much on this fucking podcast. We are here to discuss the third episode of Fargo season 5. And the title of that episode would be The Paradox of Intermediate Transactions. By the way, I'm not going to get into a long explanation of the title because I don't want to. If anyone cares, unless Brian wants to offer it up, guess what? You can Google it and then you'll see. I just don't feel it. It'll be like 45 seconds of blah, blah, blah. The only thing I wanted to point out about the title that kind of made me smile is it felt like a return to the kind of titles this series used to have, which would have these long, wordy, titles that seem to be based on different sort of, theories and philosophical. And it's something that he did on Fargo. I even noticed they did the antecedent. How do you pronounce it? I can't pronounce
antecedent.
Thank you. On Fargo and little things like that. Also, I didn't know until I had clicked on some of the extras on Hulu that, and again, Noah Hawley, king of the smartasses as far as I'm concerned, as far as TV creator writers, more so than Gilligan and Weiner and all them combined. He goes as far as he doesn't refer to this being Fargo, the fifth season. They keep referring to it as the fifth installment. He won't, now people if you listen to like John Hamm or Juno Temple, they will say season because no one gave them the memo. It's like, no. It's installment. I just think that's crazy, but I love it. I love that shit. Anyway, so let's get right to the episode. We might talk about a few other minor TV matters when we finish up, because we all, unlike last time, we are just doing one episode. And even though it seemed like I was going to be skipping this week due to my recent dental surgery, sounds like my voice can work. I've got a couple less teeth, so but let's see, do I still have the lisp? Yep, pretty much. All right, sorry guys. Anyway, so let's get to wham it, but I'm fine. Just a lot of blood. So much blood. Okay. You know what? I should have prepared ahead of time and gotten like a little clip from like Psycho. Blood, mother, blood. All right, let's stop wasting time. The episode is The Paradox of Intermediate Transactions. Once again, written by Noah Hawley. However, this time we have an episode that was not directed by him. It was directed by someone else, Donald Murphy, who outside of directing, I think, all 9 episodes of some little seen and probably little heard of series called Capers, he actually was a first assistant director on several episodes of a previous Hawley series Legion, as well as the series Dopesick. So, he's done his time and now he gets to direct an episode of Fargo, so he must be thrilled. So the first thing I was interested in talking about here, Brian, sir, and again, we don't need to go into any kind of extensive recap whatsoever, because that's kind of what I want to avoid whenever possible. But the first little slice of this episode, or chunk really, is following Roy Tillman. At least that's how I look at it. It's Roy Tillman interacting with his son, because it's taking place shortly after the murder at the end of the previous episode. And then later on we see him with both his father-in-law and then his actual current wife. And I don't know if we knew. And I don't know. Wait, did we? There might. I don't remember there being a reference to him having a wife before.
No, if you remember, I posed the question. I wondered if he had multiple wives, and like, I suspect that once she went missing, that maybe they declared her dead, or he just married this other one, not caring.
Right.
But we'd never seen her. This was her first appearance and knowledge that he had these twin girls.
Right. So my point was going to be, it was just interesting to see how he interacts with these people. And each one, I think there's something kind of significant in each situation. Okay, first, obviously, how he acts with his son, Gator. Is that his name? Not like Ron Guidry, though, for the two Yankee fans who are listening, who are old. So it's interesting because he seems to alternate with his son, because he's often demeaning to him, but perhaps not as much in the cliched way that we've seen on a lot of many TV shows and movies over the years. I mean, there's a little bit of it there. I'm not going to give them a totally, oh, it's so original. It's not that original, but there's some give and take there as well, because even though it obviously has had and continues to have a real impact on his son by the way we see him acting later on in the episode, especially. But I started thinking about it, because I don't think we're going to get much in the way of a backstory between the relationship between father and son here. I think we just fill that in from scenes like this. But it's curious because, obviously he's the sheriff and his son is a deputy. His son, almost by definition, it's his son looking to follow in his father's footsteps. Right. So there's definitely, now whether there's a hero worship there, or just the way we've seen Roy's character in the previous episode, as well as these opening scenes here, he's a very, very dominating figure. And it's just, that's what I mean. Why I thought it's very interesting to see how the references to the situation that obviously caused his wife to run off on him. And I think we're still going to hear more about that over time. And then all his interactions with these people, oh my God, especially his current wife, which is like, ooh. So I just thought that was really interesting, because it kind of added these additional levels of domestic menace to him. And while at the same time, I don't want to say it made him, I can't say it made him a sympathetic character, but it fleshed him out a little bit more. And I was like going, okay, there's layers here. They're not layers that are necessarily, pleasant, but at least there's more going on here. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I think I'm correct. Is his father-in-law named Odin?
Yep. Odin Little.
And we've seen multiple characters with an eye put out in this season.
That's true. Wow.
And then something I'm sure we'll talk about later sort of goes back to the time of conflict in England. And prior to that, I have a feeling, Mr. Munch and his people might have come to England about 500 years prior to that. That scene.
Yeah.
So, I like the family interaction. We get a little hint of, sort of anti-government militia stuff going on, and him funneling armaments to this maybe Clive and Bundy inspired group. But
now about that, right? Because obviously his father-in-law is part of, or either he's an actual leader of it, perhaps he is of a far right movement, calling themselves 1776. It's obviously some militia type situation. The things he says, harsh words aren't going to get this done, whatever. However, didn't you kind of get this? this is why I thought this is what makes that interaction interesting to me. Roy's reaction while he's talking to him. Now, I think Roy could be somewhat of an opportunist to a certain degree. I think Roy is Machiavellian. I think Roy is an ends justify the means kind of guy, which also makes me think he doesn't necessarily believe his own bullshit. That he's not that he's a man who doesn't. I don't know if I trust that he has the convictions that he has espoused so far in these two episodes. And this isn't me trying to give him a break because it's John Hamm. No, it's just he's kind of like, it seems like he almost doesn't take it seriously. It's like going, and it's not like he doesn't really want to be part of it necessarily, but he's a savvy guy. And especially in this part of the country, this is the way the political winds are blowing. So I think he's just leaning right into it and taking advantage of that to such an extreme, to the extreme of corruption, obviously. But I can see him being about, I can see him being about money, and I could see him being about power, definitely. I don't know if I personally don't know if he necessarily subscribes to these, feelings himself to that degree. Now we do see later on when we see his son's bedroom, I believe one of the things hanging in his son's bedroom is that like a Confederate flag kind of thing? Or was I mistaken? Okay. But that might be, to me, that might be the son buying into things, not realizing that he's not, he doesn't truly believe in himself. I mean, again, I'm just speculating. I'm going by the way the actor is portraying the scenes and the way he's reacting. And it doesn't seem to me he's quote unquote, into it the way the father-in-law is.
I think you touched on it earlier. I think you're correct that, I think that, Roy Tillman likes to use the devices of power at his disposal, and we use those which he can. And let's be honest. I mean, he's pretty much told us he can do whatever he wants, and he is the law.
Right.
Like, what's he gained from revolution other than possible death and imprisonment? Like, he already has everything he wants, except he doesn't have Dot.
Right. When we spoke last time, I think one of us or both of us mentioned, now it's interesting seeing the show kind of in any way, shape, or form reflect what's going on in recent years, and especially as far as the political climate is concerned. So, and I don't say this as I'm not trying to be pro or anti whomever here. I mean, it's pretty obvious where my beliefs and your beliefs lie, I think, to anyone listening, but that's not what this podcast is about. But there's a certain Trump quality to what he's doing, because those who followed what Donald Trump has been over the previous 15, 20, whatever years know that, a lot of the things that Trump has been doing and saying over the recent years is pretty much almost, if not the polar opposite, quite different than the way he spoke not that long ago. This isn't like when Reagan or Charlton Heston were once upon a time Democrats and then they became Republicans. That was more of a natural conversion with the times, because as we go from the 60s to the 70s and whatever, Trump did it seemingly, again, I don't want to get into a whole anti-Trump thing here. He saw an opportunity. He saw a vacancy, and he went and he knew how to fill that and then take advantage of it. And I think that's what Roy has done here. That, at least that's the impression I have so far. I mean, obviously, if we see old pictures, I mean, because how long ago did they say? Has it been at least 10 years that Dot ran away? Did they, I feel like someone said something like 10 years ago.
Yeah. That sounds right.
I think that's what they said. Because I'm, also trying to do the math for, because I was trying to figure out, wait, is Scotty his or is Scotty Wayne's? Because I'm not clear on that. I'm curious about that. I could see the dot might have
I
escaped.
was curious, like I don't think it could be, but what's the like who's Gator's mom?
That's true. I don't know that because
Like,
it can't be Dot. She's too well. No, that would.
I mean, unless like he raped her as a young girl and she was some sort of, you know, some sort of, I don't want to say any specific religion, but let's say one that has many wives, you know, um, type child bride who at a very young age gave birth to Gator and started planning her escape.
Mm.
So, I mean, it's unlikely, but are we going to find out like when he gets tired of a wife, like he just kills him, like he tried to kill Munch? And, the latest wife is wife number three, or, you
Yeah,
know,
I'm gonna see. I don't. Again, I can only obviously all we can do is go by what we've seen so far. Duh. Um, I don't get the impression Gator is. Well, unless maybe I'm misinterpreting a scene, maybe because I haven't gotten the feeling that Gator is trying to track down his mom. Because wouldn't he act at least somewhat differently or react somewhat different, just a little, a glimmer somewhere. I haven't seen that, so I don't. I'm thinking he's from whoever birthed him is earlier on because again, if he's already a deputy, whatever, I think he's supposed to be in his he's supposed to be in his 20s. I mean, the actor himself is like 20. We remember talking about this with Stranger Things. The actor himself is like 27, 26, 27 already.
right.
And which would make sense because, it's not, last I checked, I mean, I guess since Roy is a law, maybe he could, but I don't think a 16-year-old kid could be deputy, or maybe he could be. I don't fucking know. Where, considering where this takes place. Anyhow, I'm getting a little bit off track there. Yeah, but it's just, the way he acts with his son in this very dominating fashion, yet not he's not it's he holds back, but it almost makes it worse in a way. He doesn't scream at him, but he does make clear, like, yeah, and you fucked up again. you know Even though if anyone who saw what happened last time was like, well, can we really blame I mean, I mean, what? Oh, they said how to pronounce it in the episode. Did you catch the?
It's like Ol, isn't it?
Yeah, because they were
Like,
saying it one way, and then yeah. So, of course, if his last name is Munch, we'll just call him Munch and just make it
yeah.
easier. But we're not talking about Belzer from years ago. But Munch flicking a cigarette like he's freaking Bullseye from the Daredevil comics or something, right in his freaking eye, and then firing the gun right by his ear, which is just doubly mean. I thought, it's dealing with like a supervillain. What do you expect? But so the way he deals with his son, then the interaction with the father-in-law is important because we know that's going on. And we see all these guys outside, like on the compound. And when you first see them, you're going, ooh, is Roy putting together a posse? He's like, actually, no, it's actually the father-in-law's guys who are these are like the militias out there. Is it Roy who makes the comment about, they can come in and have some food? And he says, no, they're outside animals or whatever.
Yeah.
Which also shows that he's a bit more human, perhaps. But you got to wonder if these guys are going to come into play at some point, because he can certainly. It seems like he can at least use them, even if they're not his guys specifically. And then what he does, the thing with his wife, Karen. Now, first of all, the fact that there's that toy chest for all the little sex games they play, that lights up from the inside. I thought that was such a nice touch that there was like a refrigerator, like everything being lit up, whatever. I'm not talking about the little sex game thing she says. That's cute. Who cares? It's the moment when she gets in bed and when she like goes to lie on, and he kind of just pushes her away, and the way she immediately just goes to sleep, and she looks like she's frightened.
Yeah.
And all you can think is, oh, I'm remembering that conversation that when we first really met him in that diner. When we talked about, hitting a woman, and you're realizing, oh, I think he's hit her, and probably bad, whatever, which also then feeds into why we suspect Dot left. I mean, when she's showing all those bruises on her back, whatever, I don't know if that's, if it's from 10 years ago, I don't know if she still has marks from then, but maybe it's reminding her of that, So,
Yeah, that his men left the same type of injuries on her that he did. Like,
right. And then to top it off, he's smoking pot again. Which is interesting. We've seen that he does that, so that's something, whatever. It's the staring at the ceiling moment. And it's his, he's high. It's his imagination. We're not getting, we're assuming we're not getting into supernatural land here, but his imagination is really spot on.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's imagining Dot in her house, in her living room, whatever. And it's pretty much what the situation is. And just the way he says, I see you. And I went, wow, they just went like big time bad with that little moment there, I thought,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this whole episode, I think we touched in last week that one of the things that we've liked about this show is it will just take a left turn and go into the supernatural or the weird.
Right.
And that certainly runs through this whole episode.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Maybe the most since the UFO. Like,
Yeah. I'm trying to think if anything wacky happened in season. I feel like I'm forgetting something.
Well, there was some weird 3. David Thewlis stuff where, like, you questioned, is this guy like the devil or a demon or something, right, that got kind of weird. But like, to me, this seemed the most off kilter since the UFO.
Right. Well, the UFO is, that's always
which is like, I remember when that happened. You're like, what the hell? Like,
I was even telling someone when I was recommending that they need to watch it, at the very least, watch seasons 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, just so you know, I want to warn you in advance. There's like maybe one thing. I don't want to say what it was. I don't want to spoil it. There's maybe one thing in season 2, which you're either going to be on board with it and just laugh your ass off and be cool with it, or you're going to be like, what the fuck was that?
Right.
And I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm going to say, they did kind of, if you're paying attention, they did sort of kind of warn you a little bit, although maybe you didn't think they would go to that extreme.
Right.
But I'm saying, just go with it and then let it go. That's all. That's my only recommendation. Go with it. And it's like, okay, that happened. Now we can let it go. It's just like, I think maybe the closest they came to that, maybe in the un-Fargo-ish season 4, wasn't it like the random tornado that happens? That just...
yeah, that house out, the picturesque house out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Remember that? Like, they went a little Wizard of Oz on us.
Little Wizard of Oz, the house on the plane.
You got the Kansas thing happening there. So I was thinking about this, especially when we spend the first little chunk of this episode with the Roy Tillman character. And I'm so proud that I can remember his name, so I don't have to keep saying John Hamm. Because some characters, I'm just always going to say him by character name and some by actor name, whatever. But it seems like, with him very much specifically, especially since he is like the big villain of the series so far, and then his son to a lesser extent, and then Munch. Munch falls into that category of the not a villain, but kind of the villain that kind of floats there. It's kind of like, a couple of the guys, like, to go back to like season 1, the ones who are trying to kill Malvo, they're villains themselves, but they're in opposition to the main villain kind of thing. But it seems like, and I think you thought I was joking when I said this before the podcast, but I mean, it's such a representative of toxic masculinity that, to the point where it's like, it reeks of it. And that, I feel like, to whatever extent. So that's kind of in the crosshairs this season. And when you shift over from that, then you realize some of the interesting things they're doing here. I mean, first of all, the fact is, this all seems very familiar to us, right? There's certain elements that are all at work here that have that Fargo feel. And we talked about it last time, crime's gone wrong, kidnapping's gone wrong, big bet. Someone's trying to hunt down this one. There's a money scheme somewhere or supposed whatever. That's what Fargo is. They've flipped a lot of that here, so that the person who is the traditional Fargo thing, if you go back to the movie, the person who was the object of a kidnapping, is pretty much a hapless and helpless victim, who maybe gets in a few lucky shots, whatever. And Dot is the complete opposite of that. She is dry, she is certainly not helpless. She's a tiger. She's a real tiger,
Mm-hmm.
and she's the one kind of almost steering the action at this point. And then if you take another step back, you realize, okay, we've got a few major female roles here, female leads in this. And it seems like they all represent a different type or form of a strong female character, or feminism, if you want to go to that, if you want to call it that. And each one has a certain level of being, of empowered, so to speak, certain level of power themselves, although they may have to be subservient to something else, if they want to or not. And because you have Dot, who we see one way. She's first introduced as this, this somewhat meek Minnesota housewife who accidentally tases a cop, and then all sorts of silliness befall her. And then we realize, oh no, she's kind of a badass. Oh no, we didn't know if she was a fugitive or just someone on the run who can clearly handle anything for a weapon and take care of herself, and can stand up to someone like a Lorraine, who is the more classic dominating figure who is all about status and money, and thus that, which is often what gives power to you, no matter whether you're male or female. She just happens to be female, and she's the one kind of the matriarch of the family. With that, again, I just love the giant no painting behind her.
Yeah.
I never want an explanation for it. I never want it even referred to. I just like the fact that it's there. But it's a character who's set up in a way that, okay, we're going to be spending the entire season waiting for you to be taken down a peg. I don't count the Dot conversation with her as accomplishing that. That was more just letting her know, I'm not, you think I'm something else? Oh no, I'm something different than what you're thinking. I'm something a whole lot worse, back the fuck off. And which, again, that's one of my favorite scenes of the season so far, because I didn't see it coming and I just loved it so much. And because I think we're already wired to not like the Lorraine character. Either we question Jennifer Jason Leigh's performance choices or not. They work better in this episode than they have in the previous two episodes. And I'm thinking specifically of, and this is where I get to the other female character. It's almost like I planned this, and you can see my eyes. I'm not reading any of this shit. The main cop this season is also a female. It's Indira, whatever. And she certainly, is endearing here. But, when they have that informal, conversation where if Lorraine just, pretty much cuts him off at the quick, kind of going along with the ridiculous story that Dot's putting out there, which again, really doesn't make any sense since they have tons of evidence to say otherwise. But if she leaves it at that, it's fine. But that's not what she does. And I thought that was such a fascinating scene, because she's exerting a power that few people can get away with. She's exerting power the way Roy exerts power when those federal agents show up in a previous episode, where, I mean, clearly they know what he's up to. They know he's up to no good, and they're trying to make it clear, and he doesn't give a fuck. He's just basically like, he's basically like, I'm the law here.
Right.
And I decide what's right or wrong and everything. And these people, that's why these people put me here. You guys mean nothing to me. Here, Lorraine is basically like, you guys are, you're gatekeepers, right? Then she say something like, you're
Yeah.
gatekeepers, and you basically, she's telling me, you keep the rabble away from people like me. But when you're with people like me, what are you? What are you're
Inside the gates, there's no use for you.
yeah, this you're used. So two things. Ballsy as fuck thing to say. Especially because Indira's superior is there, and you can see his face, but he's like trying to keep her from doing anything because he realized it plays like if she fucking says something, she might lose her fucking job,
Right.
which is crazy, but that's the situation. And number two, it's almost like a writing version. What's the thing you bring up all the time? We joke about it all the time. The was it Chekhov's gun or whatever it was, right? It's not exactly that, but I felt like bookmarking this scene. Like, okay, I can almost guarantee at some point in one of the last couple episodes of the season, maybe the last one, maybe one before that, and Deer is going to do something to really, lay the smackdown on Lorraine. And it feels like it's set up for that. Now, they can avoid that and not do it, not because I know that seems predictable, but it's almost like, oh, come on. Because now you set it up that we kind of want that. And an issue I'm having, it's only 3 episodes in, and they might make up for it in the very next one. They probably will. At least I hope they will. The first 3 seasons, again, I feel like season 4 needs to really just be taken out of the mix because it's just a different type of storytelling, So the first 3, which follow the Fargo brand more, I felt like even 3 episodes in, we spent more time with and got to know the police protagonist more than we have in these episodes. And that applies to both her and the other fellow, Whit, right? Because they're the pair this season. I finally remembered who it was who was with the Carrie Coon character. It was, I can't remember the actress's name, but I know the character's name was Winnie. She was like the young up and coming eager beaver one so that was your pair there. But the first season, Alison Tolman, Colin Hanks; second season, Patrick Wilson and Ted Danson, whatever. It just seemed like they were more, I'm not saying they were the focus, but we just knew them better. And we haven't spent as much time with these two. And there's part of me that wants to, so we get to know them better. And there's part of me that doesn't, because I don't know how interested I am in their characters right now, especially her character. I mean, I know she's married to an asshole who's another example of, well, we'll go back to the whole toxic masculinity because he's just a total douche. It seems like the only decent dude in the whole thing is going to be Wayne, who's just like a who basically seems like he looked like, wait, did you used to work for William H. Macy in the original thing? Because it feels like you're a cut off the old tree.
Well, it's Wayne and Whit, but to piggyback off what you said, the 3 main women in the story, I think what we see is all of them have intuition that the others don't have. That Dot, Indira, and the matriarch of the Lion family all see things the way they really are, despite what anyone else sees around them. They are looking through the BS to what's really going on.
Right.
And to sort of play off what you said, if this is sort of an inversion of the Fargo story with a little bit of a shift, this season with the main bad guy being a law enforcement person, we have spent a lot of time with 2 of the main law enforcement people, and that's him and his son.
Right.
And
right.
Which, if that's a conscious construct or not, is an interesting tonal shift that goes along with your theory about, what this is focused on. And I think we also see in this episode, to sort of my point that I think we're going to move too soon, is not only do we see the toxic masculinity, but this sort of cracks the door on the difference between the haves and the have-nots. And, that this company that Mrs. Lyon owns, like it's the largest debt collection firm,
Mm-hmm.
in the area. And what's Roy saying? He said she owes me a debt, talking about Dot. What is sin eating but taking someone's debt? What does Tillman owe Munch? A debt you owe me,
Right.
right?
Right.
So the idea of people who have a righteous grievance for not being compensated fairly or mistreated, and how those resolve, it also will be a major plot point going forward. And just thinking of the thought of, if you're wealthy, you pay somebody your sins so you go to heaven. That's sort of the idea that I'm important and someone less than me isn't. And so it's fascinating the structure this is taken. And I mean, I know you and I on our preseason FanDuel, betting account didn't have like 1,500 England on our
No.
betting sheet. So
Wales.
yeah,
Like, wait, what? My note was, wait, 500 years earlier, what?
if there
Wales?
was ever a record
Senator?
scratch moment in my head in recent memory, that was it. I thought, what are we doing? Like, what is this?
Well, it's funny you should mention that. Oh, and just to complete the thought, even though I think I kind of said it, but just to drag it out just a little bit more, just to hammer it home. And I like the phrase that you use, the inversion of the Fargo formula, because again, and I'm going back to the original movie where the victim of the kidnapping, the wife, whatever, is really like almost just that plot element and never really much of a character herself throughout the entire story. She's a person with a hood on the whole time, whatever. And here, the object of a screwed up kidnapping and everything else is really the main character driving all the action,
Right.
and basically dominating everything. So I just, that alone, and then it all kind of ripples from that point on.
Right.
So anyway, I want to go back to what you just said. And I'll skip over I'll give Dot a little bit of credit in how she was able to get away with what in my mind was kind of a dumb scheme, but it's okay. It'll delay you for like 5 minutes, but it's 2019. If anyone's tracking you down, they're using GPS, her street sign switching all over the neighborhood. How she was able to do that with like no one, really? She's that quiet. She's that stealthy. She's like Catwoman out there. Okay. No, I want to go back to what you said. When Olsen were in Bismarck, North Dakota. By the way, I just like saying Bismarck, North Dakota. I don't know. It sounds like a punchline Johnny Carson used to use back in the day or whatever. Or, I don't know. And there's some music playing on the soundtrack. I forget what the song is, although there are other songs we're certainly going to mention a little bit later on. By the way, Hulu mislabeled a song, and in this episode, which made me go, whoever does the captioning at Hulu, you're morons, because everyone knows the title of this song is 16 Tons. It's not what you said it was, which was like Free something like, no. It's Tennessee Ernie Ford's 16 Tons. I've sung that song in karaoke, not recently, but I don't know, because I can do the baritone. But the music's playing here. And as we're going through, it's like, it's a very wintry Halloween, whatever. And I forget what I wish I'd written down what the song was, or I should have looked it up. Doesn't matter. But there's that moment, and I love them for doing this. It's just playing in the background. It's just soundtrack. And the old lady, she's sitting in her living room with her beer and whatever, and she hears something upstairs, and the soundtrack distorts and slows down and stops. And I went, oh, that's fucking gorgeous. I love that they did that. And then I mean, I knew it was going to be Munch. I just knew that was where we were going with this. Now, I know there, I guess we should just go with the assumption because he says it that is his actual mother. Although it's kind of funny to think that it's not. he just he just calls her that. I don't know. But my first thought when he finally, I mean, I realized like, okay, that must be his mother, and he does say "mama" later on, and I kept going, if that's your mother, I've got to meet your dad. I mean, he's probably in the grave or something, but I got to see what wrought this. And then when I'm having that thought, that's when we get the 500 years later thing.
Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden the show just goes, okay, we're going to go beautifully loopily off the rails, and we're not going to explain shit to you. You're just going to have to go along with this. I was following the conversations that were happening in that church, I guess it was, and the dude being a sin eater, and I guess he's eating a plate. It's just a plate of food, though, right? That's sitting on top of the corpse.
Yeah, but it's the idea of the people thinking that he's willing basically to sell his soul for a few pieces of coin.
Yeah.
To then have the sin of two men in him instead of just his own, and the terror that evoked in people that someone would be willing to do that. Like, it was so, offensive. And
here's the thing. So that we have this, and then we can jump around because again, we're not recapping here. Then of course this connects to what we see Munch doing later, where he's doing this bizarre ritual where he's clearly butchered a goat, and he's smearing like goat guts all over himself and God knows what else, whatever. And we're seeing flashes. I think we see flashes of the 500 years earlier scene, whatever. And I think they're making, was it the same actor? Was it him? Was it the same actor?
I think I looked it up, and it was, yes.
It was him. Okay. I wasn't, I thought it was.
They went to lengths to not make him look identical.
Yeah, totally different kind of hair. He's, whatever. So clearly he's a descendant of this person. We're not going to say, oh, are you going to go there? Really? Okay.
Well,
right.
I'm not, but.
No, you can. I mean,
but
hey,
it is.
The show has had UFOs. They can pretty much do whatever they want.
it is an interesting thought that if it's not his mom, and he shows up, but he's so terrifying that she doesn't call the police. That would suggest that the terror she felt in the moment was so abject that she thought, even if I call the police, I'll never be safe or whatever, that she just gave into it. That he is definitely a force of nature. And we see this in Coen Brother movies a lot, Anton.
Right. Yep.
I mean, there are these killers that, while they have very distinct, pathologies
and haircuts,
yeah, not good barbers, not good barbers.
I think Malvo,
yeah,
the character you just mentioned from No Country for Old Men. Now this one,
but this guy's a force of nature.
Well, it's interesting because one of the things that's established early on in the earlier scene in the episode during the conversation between Roy and Gator is they don't know nothing about this guy because he wasn't even, it was funny the way Munch spoke in the previous episode. It sounded like he was the guy that had been contacting anybody. But then Gator made it sound like it was the other way around. He'd never even spoken with this guy. He actually spoke to the other guy. Which doesn't quite jibe with what was said in the previous episode, but whatever. It's just more interesting. Like, okay, we don't know anything about this guy. We got to, not only do we have to, it's not about tracking him down. And this also shows how Roy's a little bit smarter than just, just track him down. Like, we need to find out everything about this guy. Which which I don't think is simply about where he might end up, be hiding out or whatever. I think like, let's know what we're dealing with. Cause this guy had the fucking nerve to fucking go up to another police officer or whatever you want to call him and basically stabbed the dude to death, at a gas station. I mean, this is, and after he was able to get out of, the trap that they were about to kill him, and he basically gets out of that despite there being multiple men with, their arm right there. They are dealing exactly what you said, first image. I just wanted to say that on the podcast. So again, and I love it because he's that element, and there's often they like to throw in an element like that in the Fargo universe. Sometimes they're more the focus, like I think Malvo is in season 1, or and sometimes they're just more of a. I mean, you could say, I'm gonna see. Well, it's too bad Jamie's on it. She probably remember the damn character's name because she loves the actor so much. Oh, then maybe you do too. The dude who's also on Reservation Dogs, who worked for the mob family.
Is it Zane McLaren?
Is that his name? He's Native American.
Yeah, played the chief on Reservation Dogs. Played the chief detective, like the head of police.
He's a total goofball on Reservation Dogs.
Yes.
Generally, even though we find some interesting stuff about him, but on Fargo, he was pretty much the polar opposite of that. And
he was Stone Cold Killer.
Yeah, and there was almost a certain kind of mystical nature to the way he did things. And again, had nothing to do with him being Native American. Oliver Stone didn't direct the goddamn thing, but
right.
But it just seemed like, okay, he's a bit above and different than all the others here. All right, interesting. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know how much more I want them to go into the. I'm torn on the whole weird origins behind the Munch character. And I can see Hawley not wanting to go any further as far as any sort of explanation. Because the Coen brothers wouldn't either. The Coen brothers are actually notorious
you think about
for
the aliens. The aliens were left rather. It was.
We never got anything more on it. There was that special room that the Ted Danson character has. It's like, oh, there you go. But
yeah,
which people forget about that. But I don't expect us to get more explanation for it. I'm torn on how I feel about that, because part of me wonders how necessary this was, but we're only 3 episodes in. There's so much more that might happen. So I'm putting this under the wait and see category. Let me see how this plays out. Right now it just seems to be, we are getting some sense of, you mentioned the word pathology before. We're getting a sense of what the background might be for his pathology, or at least what he believes it to be. Where his, everyone has their source of what their own faith is, so to speak. Whether it's something that feels genuine or not. Like Roy, it seems like it's bullshit. It's more of an excuse. And this character Munch seems to be the opposite of that he is totally embraced and wrapped up in it. He is a man of convictions. And sole focus and purpose, the debt that is owed to him. And is
pretty pagan, man. That ritual, like, that's what you got to wonder, if he's somebody's descendant. That ritual ain't going on a lot of places these days. Like that had to be passed down through his family or something for him to do what he did to that extreme.
Right.
And I just want to say, I love the touch, of sort of the contrasting going towards the houses.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the fact that they focus in that he's so covered and dirty, and that, like, he leaves visible footprints on the floor that you basically can see, like, bits of shit falling off of him walking through that house.
I'm trying to remember, because I like I said, I wrote down, a couple words here, a couple words there. I'm just trying to see if no, it happens before that. So never mind that. Okay. Just had to check. I should have just said what I was looking for. I was trying to remember if a certain piece of music that's used later in the episode, which made me kind of happy, coincided with the ritual, because I didn't think it did. It actually happens before the ritual. So Got it. And we can just actually one last, since you mentioned the footprints in the house. Question: is that Roy's house? It's Roy's house, right?
I think it is.
I
I
think
think
that's Roy's
he's going to
house.
go kill. I think he's going to go kill Roy's family.
I think that's where we're going with it. I think that's what they're painting the picture of. I think that's why we've seen the twins a few times like that, and we've seen this poor woman as well. Whether he successfully kills all three or not, we'll see how dark they want to go with this. But that seems to be where they're going, and that's the interesting thing about that is if they go to that extreme, and I could totally see them doing that. Does that therefore make Roy a sympathetic character? Maybe not so much Karen, since we already knew I already interpret that he's probably already been brutal to her. But if the kids are killed, they are innocents. You know, we saw him just with them, bathing in the bathtub together, which was an odd choice, in that episode, but it's like, okay, I see what we're doing here. Very interesting. So we talked a little bit before about Gator and his, how his dad talked to him, and then we see him later on. He's just it's done almost a comical effect, I suppose, where he keeps saying that he's a winner because his dad was referring to him being a loser or whatever, and which he uses to motivate himself to go down and to swipe some evidence, and that's when Wit shows up. So we have that little showdown between Wit and Gator. So we got some things going at play here. We get a little bit of racism. Yeah, big shock. We go, oh, he's certainly not the kid we saw in Stranger Things. All right. I love that Wit does not back down from his threat. If he says it one more time, whatever, even though Wit is in a situation where, he's on crutches, man. I mean, it doesn't take and he does kind of kick the crutch a little bit. He's not in a position where he can do anything with any, great, physical power here. But I love that he did that. He stood up to him anyway about, what'd you take from the box, over and over again.
Right.
So I really kind of enjoy. So I love we've really got good cop, bad cop going on here, up against each other. And the Moron, of course, left his card upstairs so they, so he can be tracked down. But, I kind of want to spend more time with Wit because I'm finding him to be a really interesting character. And I looked up that actor. See, that's the thing. I was looking up both the actors who play these two, the two, good cops, so to speak, because, although maybe folks didn't really know Allison Tolman that well in the first season because she'd only done a few things. But she had because, let's face it, people of certain size don't get the kind of roles that, leads, whatever. But she really held it herself, and Colin Hanks was a known quantity. People knew who Colin Hanks was. Season 2, Patrick Wilson's a movie star, for God's sake. And Ted Danson's Ted Danson. Season 3, Scary Coon has become, at that point, major TV force to be reckoned with. But you did have a younger woman playing Winnie, whose name escapes me at the moment. Of course, Timothy Elephant, whatever. See, these two I didn't know. I know Wit, he's probably best known, the actor. He was one of the main characters on the show New Girl. And I think he's 100 something episodes of that. And he's done a lot of.
He was Winston, wasn't he?
Winston, that's the character's name, exactly.
Yeah.
I did not watch New Girl because, contrary to what a few people out there believe, I'm straight. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, so. Sorry. Did I say that? Yeah, I put it on my list right after Sex with the City. No, I'm not gonna watch this fucking shit.
I like that you called it Sex with the City. Probably a good sign you didn't watch it.
No, I watched all the different porn versions of it instead.
Sex with the City.
I can't imagine what would have rhymed with city. Anyway, but Right. No, but I looked up and he's also, he's been a comedian. He's done a lot of other things as well, but ton of little parts or whatever. But I'm kind of curious to see the two though, and I kind of want to see more of him
Absolutely.
because he's very much the Colin Hanks here because
Yeah.
Colin Hanks kind of like just fell into it. He just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time and run into Malvo, and that's where he ends up becoming part of that story. This dude is classic, just wrong place, wrong time. Spin on the Fargo thing with the cop at the end, except this time one cop gets away and then
Right.
it stays in. So there's your difference, I guess. So I really kind of enjoyed that little showdown there. It's fun. Again, I know the actor's Joe Keery, but it's like, wow, who thought Steve could be such a badass?
Yeah.
We're Stranger Things fans, whatever.
Yeah, I love that scene too, and I I think Wit is the person that right now we're most interested to see what he does and how he responds to everything. I mean, there's no doubt Indira is a little more, you know, hard on her sleeve. Wit's a little more closer to the vest, and so I think that the two of them together will be an interesting combination. But I agree with you; they parceled him out in small dollops, and I think he will. I really look forward to what they do with him.
Well, a lot of times what if they're following uh the brand formula, whatever I like to call it, at least to a certain extent, it seems to me that Indira's train is going to be more on the Lions and even Dot, where more so than him, where I think he's gonna be end up leading more towards the Tillmans
Oh yeah, and Munch.
and Munch. I think that's where we're going. I think I could be wrong. I think because just like Alison Tolman and Colin Hanks, that really became Colin Hanks became more about the Malvo character, and Alison Tolman was really focusing on the Martin Freeman character, which is
Right.
how that show ended up splitting it by the end by the
It
end.
it really makes me think. It would be an interesting thing to see Munch and him against the Tillmans. That there's this reversal because Munch starts out trying to kill him and actually shoots him. And now that they both have something against the Tillmans.
Yeah, I don't.
I don't mean like a team up,
Yeah,
but
because I'm not.
there being
Yeah.
a way, there being a way the Tillmans are brought down by the two of them.
Oh yeah, no. Okay, if you're talking about there's multiple threats they're dealing with at the same time, they're coming from different yeah. I mean, again, and that's also Fargo.
Right.
That's pure Fargo. I mean, we can go to like season 2, and all the things that the mob family was dealing with were threats from Kansas City coming from this one, then the cops. All same kind of deal. So speaking of Munch, whatever, and how I am enjoying the music and that they're choosing for this season, like I always do. But I noticed a little thing here, and it just hit my ears, and I could be wrong. I don't think I am because when does that happen? There's that little moment when Munch is lying there on the bed and he's listening to the police radio. And I'm like 90 something percent. I'm going to say 98.7% sure about this. I'd say 237% sure, but that doesn't make any sense. There's a little bit of music playing. I like to call it a little musical cue. The way it builds and the way it kind of, and whatever. I am so damn sure, and this might not be the first time the series has done that they just chose a little piece of music from The Shining there. I mean, I'm telling you, go back and watch. It's on. You all got to Hulu. If you're familiar with the movie The Shining, I'm sure most of you are, so you know the kind of music I'm talking about. Go put on that scene and listen to the music. I'm so sure that's what that is, and I'm sure he would. I guarantee Hawley would do that. I feel he would, and I'm not saying it's similar. No. It is. I'm telling you, it's not similar. It's from that.
Well,
it's
this is the season of the homage because he's definitely, putting Nightmare
before
the
Christmas.
Before
Oh,
Christmas
it's
on
getting.
Front Street.
Oh my God. I mean, having that. What's funny is the stuff that we got, the Nightmare Before Christmas stuff in this episode almost felt okay because, there's a decoration because it's Halloween, makes sense. And then the mask they use happened to be masks from the characters from Nightmare Before
Yep.
Christmas. Okay, it's a connection. That almost seems more normal than picking a song from the soundtrack like they
Yeah.
did in that previous episode, which was really like, whoa. But yeah, they're hitting that. See, if they do it one more damn time, and who knows, because we figure at least one more episode will have to take place, still on Halloween because of where we left off. If they lean into that movie one more time, I'm gonna have to go back and watch the damn movie because I'm gonna think, is there something else he's going for here that I'm not picking up on? That maybe there's just a thematic element about Nightmare Before Christmas that he's trying to parallel here. I kind of remember it to a certain extent, but it's been. Look, I haven't seen that movie in probably over 20 years. So, I mean, I remember a couple of songs from it, but I don't remember much else.
Well, when we do the podcast next week, there was an article, and you and I we try not to read anything,
Right.
so we don't parrot stuff. There was an article I bookmarked to read, that where Noah Hawley was interviewed.
Oh.
About this season. So I'll be interested to read that and see what after this podcast to see what he has to say, and maybe we'll get a snippet or two to talk about next week on it. But I have to say, like, the ending of this is about as cliffhangery as you could cliffhanger. This was a 50 serial type cliffhanger that as the feet walk in, and the last couple of points, I love that we got the scene of Dot at the Super Gun Emporium.
Oh yeah.
And I thought for a minute that was Charlie Day playing the guy selling the guns, and then it zoomed in, it wasn't, but I thought, is that Charlie Day? And I mean, he would have been great in that role too,
Right.
but the little detail in that we see is something and I meant to mention this earlier and you referred to it. You see her that she knows the guns, she knows the names, the types, and she knows how to handle them. So it's not just, I know how to make a zombie killer or all that. That she dresses, her and Scotty in actual tactical armor to go out, to get Halloween candy. And sadly enough, the husband's like the zombie has no protection, no nothing. But another nice little detail that she takes that weapon and knows immediately what to do with it. So, I mean, she's formidable.
Right. Right. Yeah, it was funny with the gun store clerk scene that I initially. I hate bringing up my own stuff that no one will care about but me. But there was just a second there I got kind of annoyed because in my very first screenplay, there's a scene that takes place in a pet shop, and pet shop that gets robbed, whatever. And for no reason whatsoever in my script, it's my very first feature I ever wrote. The owner, the guy running the place, is inexplicably dressed up as a pirate and talking in pirate speak the whole time. I'm like, I haven't talked about the mizzen mast and blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, his own people who work for him don't know what the fuck he's talking about. So when I saw this, I'm like, all right, you know what? I have this copyright. I wrote this like 15 years ago. Anyway. But yeah, the ending is something. I'm going to get there in a second. I just want, cause if I don't mention this, cause I keep talking about the music, and then there's two things that are both music related that I feel one doesn't need to be said. The other one does. First one is like, look, I loved hearing Smack My Bitch Up by Prodigy, and especially a song with that title. And then when we have a character who, although we haven't seen it, we know has probably been has probably smacked quite a few bitches up, so to speak. I apologize. I don't really want to call people bitch. You know what I'm talking about. But I love that they're using that track. It's because the way it moves and it's setting the stage for Halloween night. We see Munch stalking the streets before he goes off to perform his rituals. We see Dot suiting up and she's getting ready to leave. And then the song ends when the phone rings. And this is the musical cue of the fucking episode. Because it's Roy on the other end. And he's singing a Chuck Berry song. He's singing the chorus from Nadine. I'm guessing her name was Nadine. I don't see any other reason why you right.
Right.
But he's just doing it very whispery and slow. And again, I keep going back to the word menace because there's something so malevolent and menacing about it. And that's a side we haven't really seen with John. At least I haven't seen with John Hamm before. So I'm sure he's still getting to play a part like this. We've seen him be, a quote unquote bad guy. Like we said before, morning show bad guy, Kimmy Schmidt, goofy bad guy, whatever. This is something different. Again, maybe he's done this before in another role that I'm not aware of, but I really liked them, just the look on her face. And it just, to me, it just told me so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kept thinking about it. And I remember I was watching it on the Hulu, and when she puts down the phone, I actually just pause it just to go, I kind of want to just rewind that. I just want to watch that little bit once again, because that was so good. Because there's so many ways they could have went about that. He could have been saying something, and we connect that to that early scene when he's imagining that he sees her in the ceiling, so to speak. And the way he says, he hasn't just said, the way he says, I see you, kind of like a little sing song. And then he continues it with singing the song here. I just thought that was just such a nicely subtle, creepy fucking moment.
This is the most horror movie.
Yeah.
That an episode of Fargo's ever been. Like, I mean, you basically have like a couple of scenes that are reminiscent of the original Halloween, with everybody walking down the street, her looking for an attacker. You've got, when a stranger calls, with the phone call, you basically got the whatever the Northman, Skarsgård movie, scene with the ritual. It has a lot of the really dark elements, right, that Fargo goes dark, but this is like horror movie dark, right. A lot of this,
and I would say it starts with the very end of the previous episode with the murder of the other deputy.
Yes,
and because there's that moment when we're sitting in the car. And that's a pure horror movie scene where we're waiting. It's the classic Hitchcock ticking time. We're waiting and we keep thinking he's going to come around the other side, and a hand is going to grab, and we never get that. It's him spotting the body and the reflection on the mirror or whatever. But even the way, we have the violin like here, or the quiet, I can't remember what the music was, whatever. But it's done that thing. It's heightening tension. And when if there's, obviously suspense thrillers are about tension as well. But here, as we said, because it's death, and there's also the even, the slight hint of we may see something we don't want to see. Mm-hmm. And, it's even when we see earlier, when we see those bats being made for the zombie hunters, the only thought I'm having is we may see those bats in action, and that's going to be, something straight out of fucking Walking Dead, quite honestly. One of the two bats actually looks like Negan's bat, quite frankly, and they went full spiky on the other one. Like, it's something that I haven't seen the movie, but I'm sure the Warriors must have a bat like that somewhere. I don't know. I've never seen it. It came out in 79. I can't do it on the podcast. Sorry, guys. Anyway.
Yeah. So, really, really fascinating episode.
Yep.
Liked it. move the plot forward, maybe not a tremendous amount, but a little bit, and but set in motion what I think will just be an absolutely bonkers fourth episode that I can't wait to see.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm already looking at, okay, so there's a few more red shirts I think are gonna die, i.e. guys in the car. Yeah, it's like, oh, we're not gonna get to talk to you. Okay, that probably means you're gonna die. One of, I bet you one of you is taking a bat somewhere that's not gonna, that you're not gonna survive.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, absolutely. Again, this season, it's not, at least so far, it's not super plot heavy. There aren't like a number of things happening at the same time the way Fargo can be. It doesn't mean that still might not happen, but there aren't like schemes on top of schemes that are coinciding with other things at the same time. It's really someone, someone's trying to hunt down his ex-wife who is in hiding, and she's doing everything she can to avoid that, but going about it in a far more unconventional way than one would have expected. And everyone else is just reacting to that.
Right.
Either it's Lorraine and what they're doing, or the cops and what they're doing. It's just reactionary to that. And, and then you drop the alternate bad guy or malevolent presence, which is the Munch one, the guy who got screwed over by the big bad. So he's kind of the wild card as far as, wait, is he just going to be, something to get in the eye of the bad guy? Like, which is what it looks like is what's happening. Or is he ever going to have anything to do with Dot again? We don't know. But, I don't mind that because it's, what? It looks great, it sounds great, and it's Fargo, and I'm enjoying it. And again, hopefully they'll do a bit more or do more to make the cops either play a more significant part or just make them more interesting. Which could happen if we just spend more time with them. Because they seem fine. I just, I want to be able to be interested and root for them. And then they're actors I'm not familiar with. That shouldn't matter because I never saw Alison Tolman before either, but loved her in that, Okay, so yeah, we will be back next week to cover the fourth episode. I figure if I could do this one with, with gaping holes in my mouth, I should be even better next week. We'd probably normally be talking about other TV shows around this time of year because there are other things that me and Brian both are watching. It's, we're both For All Mankind fans, and that's come back, and that's become, quite the watch. And I think this is I think we mentioned this on the other podcast, so I'm repeating myself. It is the final season of that. So I'm pretty sure they're going to be going out with a bang. So far, it has been mostly very good. There might have been a miscalculation with one character. I guess I'll just say it. The dude that we're following who goes to Mars, who's now, he's just basically an HVAC guy there, whatever. There's nothing wrong with him. I just don't know. He's just not a terribly compelling character. And what the show has mostly excelled in, outside of, couple characters, kids all grown up who became awful characters.
Terrible.
Terrible. Like terrible, like the worst characters.
Terrible.
Ever. Oh, terrible. Oh my God. If I would tell people, what, you can skip anyway. He's just kind of like just meh.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see. I'm real curious where that's going to go. There's a couple pretty predictable ways it's going to go, and I'm curious which way they'll choose. But yeah, I'll just say this in reference to the other characters, it's preferable to the one character because if I had the ability, I would fly to Mars and beat that guy's ass myself if I could. Like, I would have flown to Mars and kicked that character's ass. He was so intolerable.
Right. And again, you can be a character that isn't necessarily likable. That's really never an issue, but I still can relish the scenes they're in. It's like how people would feel about maybe like Pete Campbell from the Mad Men days, for example, although I always liked this character. But if the character is just like, you know what, I just don't want to see you on the screen anymore. You're just become an irritant in my eye. And then when I see your stupid brother, all I keep looking at is like, oh, I don't even like the hairline they gave you. You're just a weakling. And I hate, the kids are awful kids. Parents were great characters. Kids are horrible characters.
Yes.
And if people know the show, you know what we're talking about. And if you don't, oh, well, we just wasted 2 minutes of your time. Brian, I think you wanted to mention something else, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you put up a thread and extolled this show, and I know you and I have watched it from the beginning, and we wanted to give a shout out to the new season of Slow Horses. Slow Horses season 3 has begun, and I believe the first 2 episodes have dropped. The seasons are relatively short. If you've never watched it, it doesn't take long to watch a season. It's really compelling. It's a slightly dark comedic take on, the spy thriller, with a wonderful, wonderful performance by Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman's pretty much gold anyway, but in this show, he's a somewhat disgraced, seemingly bumbling mess of a man who manages a group of spies who are, not the top of the top. And the relationships, the stories in season 1 and 2 were both good. Season 3 is 2 episodes in and off to a banger start.
Oh,
so
excellent. I haven't gotten the chance to check out the 2 episodes because I know they just dropped, I think, on Wednesday, and that was the day I had, my dental surgery. So hey, the fact that I watched Fargo is miraculous.
mm-hmm.
But yes, as you said, I'm a huge, huge fan of that show. As I mentioned on the Facebook, I mean, it made my top 10 from last year. Gary Oldman, who has played any number of very unique, odd, strange, different roles throughout his career. He's, that's kind of like his penchant. This might not be as crazy a character as a Sid Vicious or a Beethoven or Dracula or any of those, but he's still something very, very different. And I knew it from I think it's the very first episode and the very first scene where we're introduced to him lying there sleeping. And I think he farts a number of times.
Yep.
And I was like going, wait, what show is this?
Yeah. The best way to describe him, his performance is so good that you can smell him. It's phenomenal.
He's kind of like a nasty British spy version of Columbo or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very much.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to. I'm glad you actually reminded me because I'm maybe not tonight, but I will catch up on those 2 episodes tomorrow. And yeah, the previous 2 seasons, they're 6 episodes each. It's 12 episodes. Y'all can finish that in a weekend or 2. It's an easy show to catch up on. Not like the olden days of those 22, 24 episode seasons. 6 episodes. It's British. If there's one thing British do know, like, no, we don't drag shit out.
That's right.
we keep our,
That's right.
We keep our seasons fairly short. We might give you too many sometimes, but we like to leave you wanting. I don't understand why every British show I watch, like the motion isn't fluid on my TV screen. It really bothers me. So every time I watch, it doesn't matter if it's Downton Abbey or Broadchurch or Life on Mars or whatever other British. So it's like everything seems to be like, okay, is this in stop motion? Cause and someone told me it's a setting on my TV. It's like, no, it's not. Don't tell me it's my TV. Cause you all are just accepting it. It's just weird. I don't understand it. It's less frames per second per minute or something that Brits do. It's bastards. Anyway.
Slow Horses looks great. So.
Okay. I'm looking forward to watching it very much. So, am I watching anything else? It's not bad so far. I can't believe I'm going to recommend this show. I'll just say it's not bad so far, but I'm surprised how much I like it. We'll stick with Apple TV on this one. The Monarch Legacy of Monsters show.
Mm-hmm.
It's not bad so far. I mean, you know it's a show because I mean, I shouldn't say obviously, it's a show that deals with, well, it's part of the Godzilla universe. So we are seeing God's, you get the occasional moments of Godzilla, whether they're clips from the 2014 movie or there's something new or not. I don't remember the movie well enough to know if it's a clip from the movie, quite frankly, as I discussed with someone else online, recently. They can't, it's not like they can spend 100 million per episode for this. So you're not going to get wall to wall. What's the pronunciation? Is it kaiju? Is that how they say
Yeah,
it?
kaiju.
All the giant creature things, whatever. But they give you enough of that for that to be satisfied. But they're really trying to make this more about characters as we toggle between essentially two different time periods. And I love the conceit of the show that even though as much as I hated him on that awful Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV show, because I hated that piece of shit so much. On this, we've got Wyatt Russell playing a character in the 1950s, and his dad Kurt Russell playing the same character, in 2000. Is it 2023 or no?
I think it's like
it's an earlier year, like
or 15.
50, yeah, it has to be around the time of the Godzilla movie. So whatever. I mean, although they do make the joke because that means the Kurt Russell character is supposed to be in his early 90s, and no. I mean, he's the best preserved dude ever in his 90s then. But they do such a good job because you realize, holy fuck, do they look like each other?
Yeah.
I mean, they are leaning into it. They keep having scenes where they just go from one face to the other and they're not doing like a little digital thing. Or if they are, they're making it so that I'm not even aware of it. But I love that the fact that he pulled that off. And I'm kind of just enjoying seeing where this is going. And it's been it's unexpected. I did not think I would like it. I thought it'd be like, oh, this crap. And I actually look forward to checking it out. So, another notch on the Apple TV belt. Does it make up for the price going up? No. But, anyhow. So that'll be it for the TV shows. Anyway, if you enjoyed this podcast, you'll also enjoy hanging out on our Facebook page. Look us up. Serious TV Drama Podcast page. Like the page, join the conversation about whatever the heck you want to talk about. Hopefully something TV related, We are available on most podcast platforms, but if you want to look us up on podbean.com, again, you can type in Serious TV Drama Podcast. I think STVD works there too. Probably does. You can access all 393 of our episodes, I think. This should be 393 if I'm not mistaken. And, if you use Apple Podcasts, go there, rate us, review us, whatever. Or don't. I don't fucking care. Go there to rate and review Scott Forgot the 80s, because I would really, I've got like, I got 7 ratings. No, that's better than some podcasts do out there, but I'd like more. And maybe people can autocorrect because, hop into the Dolores when you're trying to say hop into the DeLorean. What, you didn't see that when you typed it? You couldn't, people, stupid. Anyway, you can also find us on Instagram.
You're really asking for the good ratings, I see.
I know, it's really working. Maybe get that guy to come out of nowhere and give us a 1-star again.
Welcome to the Larry David School of podcast promotion.
Whatever. We're on Instagram, Serious TV Drama. We're still on X, Twitter, whatever. Although I'm more and more troubled by the fact that we're there, but I'll stick with it for now, even though, the whole Musk anti-Semitic thing is starting to bother me. Can't imagine why. But I figure it's still a viable venue to at least put out stuff about the podcast. Not like anybody else is putting it out there anyway. So we're STVD Podcast there if you want to follow us there or whatever from here. I'm really not caring at the end of this podcast.
This is a malaise sat over Scott as we wrap up the podcast. I think his laughing gas is wearing off, and
I had the teeth yanked out, and then I was like bleeding for like the rest of the day into the night, and there's like this weird hole in the back of my mouth, and when I open it, I put the flashlight in there. It looks like there's almost like a little vagina growing in the back of my mouth. So it's like, wait, does my mouth have its period now? I don't know what's going on. It won't stop. It has stopped now. It hasn't really bled today. I don't think it did. I don't know, but you know what? I'm not whining about it. It's actually, considering all the maladies I've dealt with over the last few years and just this year alone, injuries and illnesses and whatever. This is actually not as bad as any of them. There hasn't really been much pain or discomfort. It's just been kind of an annoyance as far as eating or whatever. But apparently not enough of an annoyance to keep me from eating too much, because I still ate too much. Like, how much sushi can I eat? But, yeah, anyway, I'm rambling again. Let's stop this. Brian, thank you so much for joining me tonight on this, whatever we want to make of this podcast. I don't even know anymore.
Hey man, no problem. And listen to us next week for more exciting ramblings by Scott.
Fuck you. All right. Good night, everybody. I thought fucking Jamie part 2 over there. All right. Again, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you. Jesus. All right.